Local broadcast of Detroit Black Journal is made possible in part by a grant from the men and women of Mishkan.
Hello, Detroit Black Journal, you're on the air.
Hello, I'm a University of Detroit student.
Hi, this is Susan. I heard what you just said, and I disagree.
Well, My name is Bill Harris. I have a question to ask.
And I'd like to respond to
Thanks
that.
again.
I think that's mythological and short.
Live from the studios of WTVS, Detroit Black Journal proudly continues 16 award-winning years of history, news, and current affairs from a black perspective.
Good evening, I'm Ed Gordon. Tonight, a talk with a Motown legend.
And now, the Supremes.
That song was the second of 5 #1 hits in a row. That string helped turn the trio of girls into what American Bandstand host Dick Clark called the group that put Motown on the map. Former Supreme Mary Wilson joins us tonight to discuss her book, Dreamgirl, My Life as a Supreme. It chronicles the group's rise from high school girls in the Brewster Projects to international superstars. And as we welcome Mary back to Detroit, I remind you, 872-4040 is the number to call with your questions about the Supremes and about Motown. Mary, thanks very much for being here tonight. Welcome back to Detroit.
Thank you very much.
It really was somewhat of a rags to riches American dream story, wasn't it?
Yes. In fact, that was one of the main reasons I wrote the book, because I felt that so many people sit at home and wonder if they can ever become famous or popular or make lots of money or do great things. And the three of us were just like that. And we didn't let anything stop us from actually obtaining our dreams. And I thought it was really wonderful that I, from the Brewster Projects, could actually be one of those girls, and that I could really tell the story that so many people wanted to know.
And it didn't happen overnight, did it? A lot of people might think, well, boom, it all happened right after Where Did Our Love Go? But it took you a while, didn't it?
It took us a while. In fact, we started singing in 1959. I was attending Bishop Elementary School when I met Florence, and I was, of course, living in the Brewster Projects where Diane lived. And we did a lot of record hops, sock hops. I'm sure you're not familiar with those terms now. But we did all those things around Detroit, working at the 20 Grand, the Greystone Ballrooms, until about 1963. So from 59 to 63, we were out there
And you all were known as the No-Hit Supremes, and that's hard to believe.
I thought they said you were kind. You're not being kind.
What about that?
Well, in fact, we were called the No-Hit Supremes by Martha and the Vandellas, the Marvelettes, the Temptations. We actually were one of the first girl groups there at Motown. And so other girl groups came, like the Marvelettes, Martha and the Vandellas, and they had hit records before we did. So although we were very good, people just, teased us behind our backs that we were the No-Hit Supremes, and we were. We had 11 flops. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm sure a lot of Detroiters heard those flops. People around the country did not. Like Buttered Popcorn, that Florence sang lead on. I Want a Guy, I Want a Guy, Shut Up, Shut Up. Diane did that one. Breathtaking Guy. I mean, all kind of songs that were flops until 1964, when we had To Where Did Our Love Go.
Mm-hmm. And then 5 #1s in a row.
Was it 5?
5 in a row.
Okay.
And then in 66, 4 in a row, and then Reflections, which was the 5th release, only made it to #2. But
I thought it made it to #1.
Hard to believe. Let me ask you, what's intriguing about that, though, is most of those tunes made it to #1, not on the rhythm and blues chart only, but on the pop chart. And for some, they made it 1 on pop and 3 and 4 on the rhythm and blues chart. You really charted new waters. We're in new waters then, weren't you?
And, for us, we were not elated that we were not considered R&B. We always wanted to have songs that were more soulful, You know, we wanted to be like Martha and the Vandellas, and it just seemed that our sound was not soulful enough. But it actually worked to our advantage because now we crossed over, so to speak. In fact, a lot of people would talk about us and say that we sold out. We started singing white music, you know, and when it really wasn't true. It was just that we were not soulful. And so we ended up becoming known as like a pop act.
Let's talk about some of the people in the book. Let's start with the man who people would say made you, if you will. Even though, and I know you kind of cringe when you hear that because...
No, I don't.
Well, and I say this, and you can tell me if this is true then. And of course we're talking about Berry Gordy. I read...
you are? I thought you were talking... Okay. Yes,
your
of
dad.
course we are.
We're talking about Berry Gordy. I read in one article where you said the one thing you didn't like was the myth that he molded all of you folk from poor ghetto children, from nothingness to these fine women of class.
Yes.
You say, hey, we were something before we came there.
Yes, I want to give credit where it's due. I don't want to take any credit away. In writing my book, Dreamgirl, it was not my intention to take credit away from Motown or Berry or Diane for that matter. It was really just to spread it around where it was deserved. Now, yes, Motown, had we not come to Motown or gone to Motown, maybe we would not have become the Supremes. But by the same token, I feel that when we went to Motown, Berry saw in us something that was so unique that the world eventually saw, but it was already there. As Mrs. Powell, our etiquette teacher at Motown, always said, and I spoke with her today on this, that she thought we were diamonds in the raw, in the rough, and all we needed was the shining up. Now, I believe that that's what Berry did. Now, it became such a sore spot for me because maybe around 1966, people were saying that we were just puppets, you know, and
he was very manipulative, though, wasn't he?
Well, in a way, but it was to our advantage. Now, a lot of people say that, come on, Mary, you know, in the book you say that they did this, they did that. Which is it? You know, did he manipulate you guys or what? I say that it was almost a give and take, that we went to Motown and yes, we were told which records to record. We were told what was best to do. But it worked to our advantage. It got to a point maybe in 1967 where we had no say. Now then, yes, I'd say that it got to a point where we were manipulated.
Let's talk about 67. That's when your friend Diane, as you call her, Diana Ross.
Well, I think most Detroiters call her Diane.
Well,
family.
Maybe so. But Diana, as the world knows her.
Yes, right. As she became.
She does not fare too terribly well in your book.
Well, it's not my fault. It's not my fault because this is not a novel. I didn't sit down and make up a story. If she didn't fare too well, it's only because how she lived her life. But it was not my intention to make her out to be some sort of terrible person. I did say that, yes, Diane was a tomboy, and that Diane was aggressive, and that Diane was very impetuous, and that many times I was hurt by certain things she did. But that's when I fell in love with her. When we first met at the age of 13, I admired that aggressiveness because I was always this sort of cute, nice little girl who, you know, I wouldn't get mud on my dresses and things like this. Seeing Diane see something that she wanted, she would go after it, and she would get it. So that's what I liked about her. Well, more or less, yeah, but that's what I liked about her. I liked that. It was a part of me that I was never, ever able to sort of be. So I more or less lived my life through her.
Okay, we're going to go to the phone calls. But
This soon?
But before we do, let me ask you something.
Touch me.
Me and you.
Ow! I love
Mary.
it.
Forget these people at home. Motown 25.
Oh, yes.
Did you push that lady? Did she push you?
Did she
push
me? Did she push me?
I don't know. You tell me, because they edited it out, so we don't know. What was that?
Actually, it was sort of, yes, a push. At the end of the show, we were all on stage. The Miracles, you know, the Stevie, Marvin, Dick Clark, everybody was on stage. And Diane was talking about Barry, the man who created it all, who really was responsible for the coming together of us. And so in that moment, I saw Barry up there, and I said, well, Barry, come on down, you know. And he had this smile on his face, and evidently something had been planned before the show that I wasn't aware of. So Diane turned, and she, you know, she pushed my hand down and said, it's been taken care of. Well, I didn't know it had been taken care of. Someone could have told me that maybe Barry was going to join us. I don't know that.
So you're telling me that's all that happened? She pushed your hand down and said...
Yeah, it was no big thing. I think people made more out of it than what it was.
Okay. You heard
Maybe
it right
after
here.
the show I'll tell you more.
Okay.
No.
And then I'll tell you folks at home next week.
Oh.
Okay, Mary, here we go. Back to the phones here. Hi, you're on DBJ. Go ahead.
Hi, Mary.
Hello.
How are you?
Fine.
Good. This is Mark in Farmington Hills.
Hello.
And, just wondering, I saw an interview with you last year regarding the Supreme start in Motown.
Yes.
And you went on to say that when the three of you were young girls, high school girls or whatever, you used to hang around Motown and just get in whenever you could, do hand claps on
Yes.
a Marvin Gaye.
Okay, what's your question?
Pardon me?
What's your question?
Question is, when you were hanging around there, apparently you said that Berry Gordy kind of just told you girls to go back and, you know, come see me when you're later, kind of gave you the brush off.
Yes.
And then when you finally made it big, did you feel any sense of maybe vindication towards him for kind of shoving you off, trying to dismiss you? And
Okay, let's give her a chance to answer that.
No, I really didn't, you know, and it's amazing that some people feel that I should feel that way. But I think that we gained so much that what we lost maybe wasn't as much. That's why I wrote the book. You can be the judge, you know. I don't really know. I'm still trying to figure this out for myself. But I did write everything that happened that I could recall. And maybe there were some things that I'm bitter about, but not bitter in the sense of hating or blaming someone else.
Well, you say maybe. There are certainly some things.
Well, the most importantly is the fact that I feel that financially we were not given a fair share, even though, yes, we signed the contract to accept certain percentages. And I think that there's a point in business where businessmen, knowing that they're working with young kids and that these young kids don't know what's proper to accept, that they should be told what's a higher percentage that they should have.
Hi, you're on DBJ. Go ahead.
Good evening. I'd like to say hello to Mary.
Hi.
Welcome to Detroit again.
Thank you.
I have a question for you. A lot of Detroiters, and particularly in Detroit, share my sentiments. We're a little upset over Diane and the way she's treating Detroit, ignoring us, not doing any concerts here like she did in New York, and donating money for a park. I'd like to know, what do you think of her marriage? A lot of Detroiters are upset about it and really hot and mad about it.
Okay.
And also about, you think a Motown will ever be again in Detroit? We really need something like that.
Oh.
Well, it's not really up to me to judge anyone. And in my book, Dreamgirl, I tried desperately not to judge, just to give you the story. As far as Diane's marriage, I wish her well, because I know that she has not had many wonderful dear friends, and if she can find love wherever it is, I mean, I applaud her, and I think that she does need that love. As far as coming back to Detroit, I too left Detroit and would love very much to give back something, because I think the city is wonderful. The best years of my life were spent here, and the people are definitely wonderful. Detroiters have always treated the Supremes like they're girls. So, you know, if you want her to come back, write her and tell her. Let her know that you want her back here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right, Diana. We'll get her address for you. Hi, you're on DBJ. Go ahead.
Yes, my name is Jerry. I'm calling from Hull. And hi, Mary.
Hi, Jerry.
First off, I'd like to know whatever happened to Cindy Birdsong, and is there a chance of some sort of Supreme reunion other than the 25th anniversary?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. I would think that if there will be a Supremes reunion, it will have to come from Diane and myself, because I think by Motown putting us together, other people doing it, it doesn't come from love, from we wanting to do it. I hope that that will happen. I mean, I really sincerely hope that it happens, but I want it to happen out of the gut, from our gut feelings. And as far as Cindy is concerned, Cindy was working at Motown, and now she is out singing again. In fact, she just had a concert in London. So she is back on the road again. On the road again.
Let's talk a little bit about who Cindy Birdsong replaced Florence Ballard.
Yes, of course.
I was just going to say she was the third original member of the Supremes.
Cindy was the third. I mean, Cindy replaced Florence. I think everyone will, and this is in all fairness to the original group. The originals definitely are Diane, Flo, and Mary. Cindy replaced Florence and did a great job of replacing her, but no one could ever really replace Flo, and I'm just sorry to say that. But also, now I'm speaking about it and being here, I must say that the original group was the Primettes. And in the original Primettes, it was Betty McGlaughlin. So I hope Betty is out there. Hi, Betty. And Betty was replaced by Barbara Martin. Right. Hi, Barbara.
And it's all right there in the book.
Yes, right.
Now, let's talk a little bit about Florence, who in 1976, for the few people who don't know, died at the age of 32 of a heart attack. Mm-hmm. And that was aggravated by her drinking, alcoholism. She also had, as you revealed in the book, a rape that happened to her at an earlier age that changed her, as you saw it, completely from the person that you knew and grew up and grew to love as an outgoing, carefree person, and kind of closed her in there. Was that the beginning? Was that the downfall, the start of Florence?
I feel so. I feel that Florence was this wonderful, bubbly, kind, open, earthy black woman, you know, and if she laughed, everybody laughed, and she was mischievous. She was a wonderful person, and when this happened to her at the age of, I think she was about 16 or close to 16, in my opinion, I tried very desperately in the book not to give opinions, but in this instance, I took it upon myself to give an opinion. And I feel that was the beginning of Florence's downfall, because after the rape, we went on to become very popular, very famous. Diane and I both felt that she had really gotten over this situation. We didn't know. We were young girls. We figured she's laughing now, you know, everything is great. And we became popular, and then we started having internal affairs, like Florence not being able to sing lead any longer. So that started eating away with her, because she was a great singer.
And the one thing that devastated her there, and then we'll get right back to the phone lines, is that most people considered her to be the real singer and the sexiest at the time of the three of you, and she was devastated by the fact and did not handle it as well as you did in terms of Diana taking over.
Well, you know, when you say she did not handle it as well as I did, you see, I've always sang all my life, but I've never thought that I was a great singer. But Florence really was a great singer. I mean, I hate to always say this, and I hope Aretha knows I'm putting her where she is a queen of soul, but Florence had a voice very much like an Aretha Franklin. It was very soulful, and not to use that kind of voice, you know, really ate away at her. So she was unable to cope with the problems that were beginning to come in her life.
Okay. Hi, you're on DBJ. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Ted from Ann Arbor, and I'm a great fan of yours and the Supremes. And just two quick questions. I wondered, did Diana Ross do anything to take care of Flo Ballard's kids after she died? And then also, of all the songs that the Supremes sung, which is your most favorite? Okay.
It's very difficult for me to say exactly what Diane has done for Florence's children. I understand that there is a trust fund that was set up by either Diane or Motown. I'm not sure which it is. So I guess that answers the first part of your question. And in terms of the second, which song? I guess I Hear a Symphony has always been one of my favorites, but I have another song that I absolutely adore, and that's Stone Love, and that was sung by Jean Terrell in the Supremes.
Okay.
Okay.
Last number one hit there. for the Supremes.
What was it?
Unless
because
you
we
guys
had
are planning on.
Well, no,
doing some
we
more.
had Floyd Joy.
Right.
Floyd Joy, you're the man. And we had Nathan Jones, went Up the Ladder to the Roof. So we had some pretty good, and they were million sellers.
And here this lady is singing. I would join you, but Hi, you're on DBJ. Go ahead.
Yes. How you doing, Mary?
Hello.
All right. My name is Ken from Detroit.
Hi, Ken.
How you doing?
Good.
Pleasure
Good.
talking to you. I had two questions right quick.
All right, quickly.
What made the Supremes break up in 1970?
Mm-hmm.
Was the Brewster Projects as tough right back then as they are right now?
Well, okay, what made the group? The group disbanded in 1970. Well, it really didn't. Diane left in 1970. I carried on the group with Jean Terrell and Cindy Birdsong up until 1975. Sherry Payne joined me then. I continued the group until 1977. At that time, the group disbanded. And your other part of your question was, I'm sorry.
Are the Brewsters as tough
yes.
as, of course, you don't know how tough the Brewsters
I don't know.
are today.
I was going to say, I don't know how tough they are today, but honey, in 1956, when I moved there, they were tough. In fact, I had to date one of the gang leaders because I didn't want to be beat up. And his name was Turtle.
Now,
and his sister was the leader of the female gang. Turtle. But they were rough. They really were rough, I must admit. But even though they were rough, it was rough, it was still very, very wonderful. I mean, music was in the air. I mean, music was everywhere in the air.
Now, Mary, I'm glad that you brought up dating.
I knew I would get myself into trouble.
And let me talk about one man first, Marvin Gaye.
Mm-hmm. I never dated Marvin, no matter what they say.
But there was a real affection that you and other women shared about Marvin and Motown. What was it that really caught you?
Marvin was this wonderful, soft soul. And I think that anyone who was in his presence, even men, felt the same way. When you were around him, there was just something soft about him, genuinely from in here. And yes, I, like most of the other women, loved him dearly, but I never dated him.
But in the book, you revealed the people you did date.
Some of them.
Well, now, Mary, you got a good list here. Tom Jones, Mike Warren, Duke Fakir from the Four Tops, Flip Wilson, and Steve McQueen. Flip was funny even on a date.
Yeah.
Hello. Tom Jones had you flying around the world.
I flew around the world. Yes, I did. And I enjoyed it, yes.
I won't spoil it for the folks who haven't read it, but what was it about what Tom Jones that made you just crazy?
Well, I don't know. Tom and I immediately just had a wonderful chemistry. And unlike what most women think, he was more than a sexual person. I mean, he was really a very sort of wonderful man that I enjoyed conversations with.
We're going to go back to the phone lines, Mary, before you get us all in trouble here. Hi, you're on DBJ. Go ahead.
How you doing? My name is Edric McClure, and I read an article in the paper that stated Diana Ross was receiving $15 million annually in royalties from Supreme's record, and I want to know if that was true, and if so, how much are you getting and Cindy Birdsong is getting?
I'm glad you brought that up. When Florence left the group, she no longer was able to receive royalties. When Diane left, I'm not sure what kind of contract she negotiated for, but I'm told also that she negotiated a contract that she receives quite a bit of money for royalties. I, however, still receive the same royalties that I did back in 1967, 67, 68, which is not what I would like to receive. Cindy Birdsong does not receive royalties from the Supremes, as far as I know.
Something, as far as getting back to some of the some of the ball players in the book.
I didn't date any ball players, did I?
I don't know. Well, Mike Warren married.
Oh, that's right. UCLA.
All-American.
Right,
there you
right.
go. Diana Ross and Berry Gordy had a thing going, and that put her right next to him, and that helped her manipulate things. And
I don't like the way you say manipulate. I don't think she manipulated it.
Yes, you do, Mary. Let me ask you this: do you blame her personally for the downfall of, if not the group itself, the fallout that has occurred between you and her, and perhaps maybe the ultimate demise of Florence?
No way. I think that Diane's dating Barry in the very early days helped our group tremendously. I do think, however, as they became very, very close, there was a lot there that had a lot to do with the group's total breakup. But I cannot sit here and honestly say that I blame Diane for Florence's death or for the demise of the group, because when a person decides they want to do something else, you can't stop them. I would have loved for the group, Flo, Diane, and myself, to go on for years, but that's very selfish of me, because I wanted to continue. Someone else changes their mind. I had to understand that, so I cannot put any blame on Diane for that.
Okay.
No.
Let me ask you this. What's Mary Wilson been doing other than putting this book together since 1977?
Okay, I actually started writing the book though when I was 17 in high school at Northeastern. I kept a diary, and then of course I started on the book in 1979, I believe. But other than that, I've been touring with my band, with my two singers, and touring around the world, places like the Middle East, the Far East, Great Britain, Africa, Australia, and learning how to sing. I mean, I really have been out there getting my confidence together, getting it back. I have been studying acting, commercials. I take my voice lessons. I have 3 children that I love dearly. I'm no longer married. And I do many, many interviews. What else do I do? And I'm starting my second book. I'm writing a sequel to this. I mean, I wouldn't leave you hanging.
Is that right? You're going to start a sequel to this book right here.
Dreamgirl #2.
Let me show it to the people at home. Here's the cover. Dreamgirls, My Life is a Supreme by Mary Wilson. Mary, thanks very much for being here.
Thank you.
We're wrapping it up. Mary, you sure you don't want to tell the people out there that you cannot stand Diana Ross? You know that's what they want to hear.
Oh, no, I know that's what they want to hear, but you know what? I love her.
Okay.
I really do.
Well, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
That's all for tonight. Next week, a look at the tragedy of teen violence that is gripping this city. Please be sure to join us as we look for solutions. We close on a happier note, one of the Supreme's many #1 smash hits. This is Come See About Me. I'll talk to you next Monday. Good night.
Local broadcast of Detroit Black Journal is made possible in part by a grant from the men and women of Michigan.